Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. I'm actually at a hotel right now, but still wanted to bring you some great information. It looks like there's 3 million more veterans that are going to be potentially impacted in a positive way. So I wanted to reach out to you, let you know what's going on, bring you into the fold. Hit the thumbs up for me, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. All right, so the VA plans outreach to screen 3 million more veterans for toxic exposure. Now remember that with the PACT Act, what they're looking at as far as the toxic exposures and these screenings is primarily a three-prong approach or three prongs that they're looking at here. One is your Vietnam veterans with Agent Orange. Two is your Camp Lejeune water issues, contaminated water. And three, you have the burn pits. So let's dive into this and check it out, see if we can pull out any nuggets along the way. 3 million is a huge number, considering that I want to say that the number of veterans that are receiving VA compensation is sub 6 million, I believe. There's about 16 million, 16 and a half. It depends whose numbers you look at, but there's about 16 and a half million total veterans. So 3 million is a big number when they're talking about more. I can't remember the number, and maybe it'll say it in this article, but I want to say that it was a big number that they've already screened in the millions. So let's dive into it and go from there. All right. Jumping into the article here. Efforts are underway at the Department of Veterans Affairs to encourage nearly 3 million veterans to come into VA Medical Center or clinic and receive a brief 5-minute screening for possible exposure to environmental hazards. Now, I'm going to stop right there. If they've already, and the number's so big that they've already screened, I think that there's a great potential here to, again, potential, right? To bring in veterans who are not connected with VA healthcare, and the primary healthcare component or qualifier is disability compensation. So you have a good opportunity to get in front of veterans who have not been to the VA for compensation, because I'm sliding back here, swimming upstream a little bit. So I think that there's a good opportunity, and what I don't like is missed opportunities. And so for me, what I believe the VA should do with this push for healthcare screenings is have a one-page flyer in their local area. So this would be a geographic thing, right? So every medical center, every clinic, what have you, throughout the U.S., have a one-sheeter that's, hey, here's a list of some accredited VA accredited representatives. If it's a county veteran service office, then that's what it is. Or if there's no county veteran service officers in that specific area or veteran reps, maybe it's a veteran service organization such as VFW or DAV or American Legion or what have you, somebody who has an accredited rep, and give that information to get the folks that are not connected with disability compensation, get them connected, right, with the right folks. So moving on, under a requirement of the PACT Act, the VA must try to screen all patients enrolled in VA healthcare for toxic exposures. To date, it has screened 4.8 million veterans. Huge. That's a big number. Of whom have reported have at least one concern or experience with potential exposures. Now the question is, of the 4.8 million veterans, how many of those were not enrolled in VA healthcare, and how many of those were not receiving VA disability compensation? I would say there's still a big number in there. And look, the folks that weren't connected, that were going to those screenings, that might be the first step to them wanting to file their claim. They're just trying to work up some sort of evidence. Moving on here, next on the list, however, are the 3 million veterans who are enrolled at the VA but don't actually receive their medical care at VA facilities. According to the VA Undersecretary for Health, Dr. Sharif Ellenhall, the department will embark on an extensive outreach effort to ensure that those veterans have the chance to be screened. Ellen Hall said that he is optimistic that the VA will succeed in the effort, given that the veterans are already enrolled in care and the department has at least some contact information for them. So it looks like before it was just the come in for a screening, just blasting it out everywhere. Now this 3 million is the target outreach for folks that are already enrolled in VA healthcare. However, they are not really receiving their care there for whatever reasons. Now, I will say that by default, any sort of advertising and talk to do anything will always trickle out and get those that might not be enrolled coming in and knocking on the door asking what's going on. So any sort of publicity or news releases or efforts to do that are going to bring more veterans out of the woodworks, which is a good thing. So moving on, he hopes the effort will encourage the veterans to turn to the VA for their health care more regularly. I could barely say that. On a more regular basis. There you go. I hope, it's a quotation here, I hope that when they come into our brick and mortar institutions or otherwise get screened, they realize that we've got a team and set of teams across the country dedicated to veterans care, Ellen Hall said during a press call with reporters on Monday. The exposure screening process consists of a medical provider asking a patient a set of questions. Those include whether the patient thinks they were exposed to any toxic substances from burn pits, Agent Orange, radiation, contaminated water, or other pollutants. What they think, and I'll tell you that, or other pollutants, I kind of think we all were in a way, and just maybe not to the extreme levels, right? Exposed to, and whether they have any questions. The screenings are to be conducted at least every 5 years, with the results kept in the veterans' healthcare records according to the VA. Ellen Hall said that if a veteran has concerns about exposure or a clinician believes that the veteran may have a condition related to an exposure, they will be referred for further care. He could not provide information on whether the screenings have sparked any immediate specialty care referrals, and if so, what types of care. But Ellen Hall added, VA physicians are trained to understand the veterans' responses and the potential health effects of hazardous material exposure. According to the department, 97% of its clinicians have completed PACT Act clinical training from the VA's War-Related Illness and Injury Studies Center, which is a module for assessing deployment-related environmental exposures. That's been a key part of what we do, so no clinician can be surprised or should be surprised when a veteran presents with a concern about an exposure and how that might be related to their health, Ellen Hall said during the press call. The PACT Act broadened health care services, disability compensation, and benefits for an estimated 5 to 6 million veterans who served overseas during the post 9/11 wars, the first Persian Gulf War, and the Vietnam War. So, moving on here, there's a paragraph and a half left. The toxic exposure screenings are aimed at those at risk of illness as a result of exposure to both burn pits, airborne pollutant matters, chemicals such as Agent Orange, toxic water at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina and elsewhere, and other environmental pollutants. Ellen Hall said that the VA will make every effort to screen all its patients, but ultimately, it's the veteran's decision. And totally, you can only let people know, right? And then if they show up, they show up. So it's my hope that people show up. Let's move on. The law requires us, the VA, to screen them, which is an extensive outreach effort on top of the screening effort, Ellen Hall said. Obviously, it's the veteran's choice at the end of the day on whether or not they want to. That concludes it. But again, I'm hoping and I'm hopeful for the extra outreach translates to awareness, which then leads to action of veterans showing up to the VA asking about these screenings. And then, it rarely happens, but I'm hoping that the VA goes, this is an opportunity to get these veterans who are coming through the door, who are not connected to VA in any way, whether it's compensation or on the medical side, healthcare, get them connected with an accredited rep who can then open the door for them through Service Connection. So hopefully that happens. We'll see. But I wanted to keep you up to date with this. Thanks so much. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.